A24's Civil War is not about what you think it is. It's not a commentary about current politics, and not only do I think the movie is misunderstood by a lot of people, it's partly because of the misleading marketing by A24 themselves. A lot of the marketing focused on the war itself and really tiptoed around what the true message of what the movie is. This isn't a movie about fantasizing what would happen in an actual civil war. Like, this isn't meant to be cool or like epic. It's meant to be horrifying. And the real theme of the movie is about war journalism and the media. Because if you've seen the movie, I think there's an argument to be made that the war that is happening could have been any war. If it was a war in another country, I think it would still be able to tell the same kind of story with the same message. So to make a movie about war journalism, you need a war. But what was the inspiration behind taking America and make it a civil war? The thing that is interesting about using a civil war as a backdrop for the war is because I think a lot of Americans, when you think about war, they think about like other countries or places that they've never been to or never seen before. And you have this idealistic idea of war and what it should look like. And when you see these types of atrocities and horrifying things in your own soil, on your own country, I think it hits very different. And I think for that reason, putting a war in America made it very different from any other war movie I've ever seen. But one thing I'll say though is I think with such an interesting premise, there is so much left unanswered and there is so much that could have been explored. I think I can't be the only one that was a little bit disappointed when this movie didn't really touch on any of the reasons why the war started, who are the factions, or what is really going on. Because this movie is really about the press and these characters going through the country and learning about what's going on. This isn't about choosing a side or rooting for the right side. We don't really know what's going on. We're supposed to stay neutral, which is interesting to say the least. Like, I don't know if it was the right call, but I think for what they were trying to say, it made sense. But compared to all the marketing, I think people might be disappointed, which is why I don't know why A24 did that, because a lot of the marketing is like painting this movie as like this big action like war movie, like an Apocalypse Now but in America, and yes, there is a lot of action, but it's not what the movie is about. It's really about the press. But yeah, apart from that, there's a lot to like about this movie. The cinematography is absolutely beautiful, as much as it is also brutal. But I love how they shot it in a way that doesn't romanticize war. So yeah, to me, this movie felt more like a horror movie than a war movie or like an action movie. Because by being at the perspective of the press, you feel so powerless. I think it's such an interesting point of view. The soundtrack is also really good. A lot of times they used the soundtrack in a way to like contrast what's going on in the scene. There would be very traumatic and brutal stuff going on screen. They would have like some upbeat or fun music going on. And the fact that these emotions are clashing, I think is very intentional. Another thing is I, for the life of me, cannot take Nick Offerman seriously as the president. Like, to me, every time I see his face, I immediately link it to comedy. But maybe it's on purpose, because I'm not trying to say that Nick Offerman was badly casted. I think he's a very good actor in The Last of Us. I think he was amazing in that episode, but and I say maybe it's on purpose because the president in this movie isn't meant to be cool. He's like a fascist. He extended his term to like a third time. He abolished the FBI. He used bombs on American citizens. There is so much that is wrong with this president. And of course, you would want to cast someone a little goofy, if that makes sense, with all due respect. And I cannot be the only one that sees a lot of comparisons with The Last of Us. Bear with me for a second. An older person that is a veteran in their field has to reluctantly take this little girl across America on a road trip and go across a destroyed version of America. This movie also reminded me a lot of Nightcrawler, just the whole journalism aspect and the fact that you have to like shoot dead bodies and the desensitizing of the audience. I think this movie did a great job if it reminded me of Nightcrawler. The acting was also amazing from everyone. The performances are very grounded and not like flamboyant or too much, which is very important for the type of mood that we're trying to capture in this movie. One thing though I'll say that is negative is Joe's character arc felt a little incomplete compared to the others. I think a lot of people changed a lot throughout this movie, but Joe not so much. The action in this movie is so visceral and realistic. You see everything, and the gunshots in this movie are blaringly loud. It's really meant to make you uncomfortable and you really feel like you're there with them. At first, I didn't think this movie had much to say. I thought this movie was just about, war journalism and how it desensitizes people. But I saw an interview about the director saying that the message of the movie is very vague, but he dropped a lot of precise hints across the movie. And when I saw that, I was like, damn, I probably didn't understand the movie as well as I thought I did. Hearing the director say that kind of questioned my media literacy. And I said earlier, this movie is not about politics, but I think I would have put an asterisk next to that because it is about politics, but not in the way people expected. This movie obviously is not about current politics and how liberals and conservatives are divided in anything like that. And yes, this movie is about war journalism, but I think there's a line in the movie that is so important to look at, and it's about Lee saying, "We don't ask questions, we take pictures so that others can ask questions." And to me, I think what the ending means for that line, journalism is extremely important. It has the power to stop or even start a war like this. And I think this movie sparks a very important and interesting conversation. Hopefully, I'm not entirely wrong about the message that this movie is trying to convey, but if I am, feel free to correct me in the comments. But yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a very solid 8 out of 10. There's so many things to appreciate in this movie, but there's also a lot of wasted potential, I think. And the misleading marketing might actually be a detriment to people's experience when they first watch this movie. If you'd like to see more reviews like this, subscribing would really help me out a lot. But if I don't have any new uploads in the meanwhile, you can check out my last review on Monkey Man. I think it was such a great directorial debut by Dev Patel and honestly rivals the first John Wick in terms of quality. So yeah, see you.